Hi, and welcome to the Book Bar, where everything bookish is on the menu. I'm Anjanette Barr, and today I wanted to tell you about my vacation that I just took with my daughter and the books that I bought while I was there. I've posted a little bit about this on Instagram. I'm Book Barista on Instagram. If you don't follow me, I'll put the link in the description as always. I went to quite a few bookstores in the 2 weeks that we were traveling and purchased quite a few books. I did leave room in my suitcase. I knew I would do that. It's really hard for me to get out of any city without buying some books. But this one in particular, I went in with a few books in mind to purchase in person rather than buying them online. And I really wanted to see some of the bookstores that I have not been to for a while. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, and it is frigid outside in Alaska right now, Juneau, Alaska in particular. It's 51 and just pouring rain, and what is today, June 16th? Outlander Day. And I don't know why it's so cold, but I am here with my tea and a blanket in my lap. You can't see. Oh my goodness. I don't envy my daughter. Right after we got back from Denver, she went off to camp and she is even colder than I am. But the two of us took this trip together for her 13th birthday, and this is a tradition we have in our family. We let them choose where to go. She chose Denver. So you may know that I'm a Kansas girl. I did grow up in Kansas, but I was born in Denver, and I still have lots of family and friends in Denver. And Denver is definitely a second home for me, so I'm very comfortable there. I've been there a lot. I went there every summer and sometimes Easters and Christmases growing up. And so when my daughter told me she really just wanted to go to a big city and she wanted to do some of the things we can't do in Juneau, I thought maybe a big city with a lot of people we are comfortable with would be a good fit for her. So we had a blast. I visited, I don't remember how many bookstores, but there were 3 in particular that I wanted to go to, and I did, and I'm going to show you what I purchased. Let me see if I can put this down. And the first one I went to was in Fort Collins. So I did buy some books for my daughter that she has with her at camp now, so I can't show you those, but I went there in particular for a book, a specific book, and I went to a specific bookstore. So I went to Firehouse Books in Fort Collins, Colorado, which is adorable. And it's in an old firehouse, and you should definitely look it up. Fort Collins is actually the inspiration for, is it Disney World? What is it called? Oh, someone here is gonna know and put in the comments. The Anytown USA or something like that. It's like the Main Street, that's what I'm looking for, Main Street USA, is Fort Collins inspired that, the kind of architecture and feel of the Old Town area in Fort Collins. And there's a bookstore there called Firehouse Books in the old firehouse, and it's still brick red on the outside and super adorable. So we went there because I mean, didn't need an excuse, but in particular, I wanted to find this book, Soil, and it's not pretty, such a good cover. This book caught my eye when I was looking for a book to read with some family and friends. I thought a local author would be great, and I realized if I was going, then I could get a signed copy, perhaps, from the local bookstore. And I did. I found it. So I'll just read you the flap, a little bit of it. It says, "In Soil, the story of a Black mother's garden, poet and scholar Camille Dungy," I don't know how to say her last name actually, so hopefully that's how you say it, recounts the 7-year odyssey to diversify her garden in the predominantly white community of Fort Collins, Colorado. When Camille moved with her husband and daughter to Fort Collins in 2013, the community held restrictions about what residents could and could not plant. In chronicling her resistance to the homogenous policies that limited the possibility and wonder that grows from the earth, Camille employs the various plants, herbs, vegetables, and flowers she grows in her garden as a metaphor for how homogeneity threatens the future of our planet, and why cultivating diverse and intersectional language in our national discourse about the environment is the best means of protecting it. So everything about this book is super intriguing to me. I love that there's maps in the end papers, like a garden diagram. I love to garden. I have a video about my favorite garden books. Maybe this will be included in it. I love this kind of out of the box take on it though. It's not just about diversifying your garden, like it's not about permaculture in particular. It's not about local versus imported plants. It's not about invasive versus non. It's not about weeds versus cultivated flowers. It's about all those things and about culture and anthropology. And I just I think about how a lot of us have kind of thought about resisting the habit in the U.S. to plant grass and care for our grass and kill our dandelions and stuff. There's been discourse around that, and I'm always interested in reading about things like that. And I'm so excited to read this from the perspective of which aspects of what we deem as maybe appropriate or desirable for our garden are based on our whiteness or our European, what we've inherited from our European ancestors or the people who founded this country who were European. So I've thought about this regionally. There are places in the US where people still sweep their yards, and I've read about how, in some ways it would make sense to do that. You can prevent, snakes from coming too close to your door, for instance, and in other places it doesn't make as much sense because with no plant matter in the soil, there's nothing to absorb rain, and so then you get flash flooding and runoff, and all those things are super interesting, and there are cultural implications there. So how fascinating. I don't know yet all of the angles that she takes in reading and in writing this book, but my sister, let's see, I'm starting, don't mind me, I'm just gonna start reading, heard this author speak, and so we decided we're reading this together, me and two of my sisters actually. So very excited about this, and went and bought 3 copies from Firehouse Books. So that was my first stop in Denver, specifically for this book, and then we just bought a bunch of others too, of course, because it's how we roll. My daughter had a really hard time choosing what she wanted, and if we did not have a suitcase weight limit, we would have gotten more. And then the rest of our trip was in the Denver metro area. I mean, Fort Collins practically is the Denver metro now, which is just insane. If you know, you know. But the rest of it was spent closer into what I used to consider Denver. And I, of course, had to stop by the Tattered Cover. So the Tattered Cover is kind of like it is a chain. There are multiple locations. It's not a chain. There are multiple locations of Tattered Cover in Denver, but I don't think there's a Tattered Cover outside of Denver. It's just a regional thing. So one of the things I've always thought was really cool about Tattered Cover is that they sell new and used books. And so you can go in and really get a feel for what's popular now. You can usually find those titles really easily, but you can also browse, lots of used books, and they always have a good selection of just about anything you would be interested in. So I didn't go in with anything in mind. I just went in to see what this particular location of Tattered Cover looked like. And I almost walked out with entirely too many books, but I stuck with cute little books. I was in the mood for cute and little, and when I, was walking to the counter with a stack of like 8 books, I was like, suitcase, weight limit. So I got these adorable books. So first of all, how cute are these? Have you guys read these? Tell me if they're going to be as adorable as they look. They're not very long, so low commitment, but so cute. So an elderly lady is up to no good, and an elderly lady must not be crossed. So they're both short stories that are mysteries, I'm pretty sure, like murder mysteries. Maud is an irascible 88-year-old woman with no family, no friends, and no qualms about a little murder. This funny, irreverent story collection by Helen Thurston, the author of Irene Huss Investigations, will keep you laughing all the way to the retirement home. This just sounds so fun. The other one says, don't let her age fool you. Maud may be nearly 90, but if you cross her, this elderly lady is more sinister than sweet. So I have a feeling it's going to be absolutely adorably funny. And these are both by Soho Crime. So I grabbed these two, and one was new and one was used, so I saved a little bit of money there. And then I was trying to get away, but I saw this one on the used shelf, and it's Pride, Prejudice, and Peril. So a nice little Jane Austen Tea Society mystery. When did this one come out? So this one is by Berkeley. This was just an impulse buy, right? 2021, so it's not that old actually. Katie Oliver. I'm looking forward to this. I read another spinoff on, it was a Jane Austen spinoff. What was it? I just had it on my, no, I've already sent it to someone else. I don't have it with me. The Murder of Mr. Knightley, is that what it's called? Yeah, look on my Instagram. I read that late last year, and it was really delightful to spend some time with these Austen characters. And I actually wrote a short story that was a spinoff on an Austen novel that will be in an anthology soon. I'll have to make a video about that. And so I've been in this mood to just take these characters and see what other people, how other people imagine these either alternate endings or continued endings, or just what you can do with these very beloved characters. So this was Tattered Book, and it was not my beloved old Tattered Book that was, I feel like it was multiple stories. Someone can tell me if you guys have been there. I think it used to be multiple stories. It was big. I felt big, but then again, I was probably a kid the last time I went. That location's closed, but this was a really delightful one as well. And then the last place that I really wanted to go to, as funny as this sounds, was Barnes & Noble, because it has probably been 15 years since I have been inside a Barnes & Noble. Now, my most popular video on this channel is all about my Barnes & Noble Classics editions. I'll put that link up, whichever way it ends up being. But despite the fact that I own a lot of Barnes & Noble collectibles, I have not been to a Barnes & Noble in forever and ever, because I have not lived in a city that had one since I left Kansas City, Missouri. So we have a Barnes & Noble in Anchorage, Alaska, which is really far from here, you guys. And there's no road, so I've not been to that one. Maybe I'll go this fall. I'm going to be in Anchorage a couple of times. But Barnes & Noble does ship here. It's one of the few stores that will ship here with their free shipping promotions without charging us an arm and a leg extra. And I love their classic I love all of their collectible editions, but I have both the hardcover and the softbound ones. And there's a few, there's three. One I did not buy on this trip because it is discontinued, and I'll probably have to get it used, but I was just crossing my fingers. They might still have some on the shelf. That one that I did not get is the version of Emma. It's really pretty. They do have a version of Emma, but not the one I want. But I don't think I'll be able to get that one unless I source it used. But the other two books that I did get that I will show you, I've been wanting for a long time, but they are quite pricey. And so I wanted to wait until I could do a buy one, get one half off or something like that. And often when that promotion is online, the buy one, get one half off of these more expensive ones are excluded. And so I have not gotten to purchase these two books before. I have read these books and I don't really need them. And so I just kept telling myself that, like, someday I'll go to a Barnes & Noble and I'll be able to buy these, you know, off the shelf, and be they discounted or not. They were buy one, get one half off. So I saved a little bit of money on these and finally got these beautiful copies of some of my favorite books. So now I can add these to my shelf of Barnes & Noble collectibles, the hardcover versions of them. These books, again, go to that video that I made of all of the ones that I have, but I love that they all have gilded edges that I'll show you in a second. And they all have, this is nice and new and crisp, they all have bookmarks, ribbon bookmarks, and they're all different colors. So sometimes the gilded edges are silver and sometimes they're gold. This bookmark is red. You can see that there to match the red and the white. This one is gold to match the gold and the dark blue and the orange color. So pretty. And then I'll show you the end papers because everyone always wants to see the end papers of these. So here's the end paper for Dune. And the end papers for Jurassic Park and The Lost World. It's a map. So the reason that I've been holding out for this, besides the fact that it's gorgeous, this is just the best cover ever. It's always, Jurassic Park has always had an amazing cover in all the iterations, but, and I just love the iconic everything about this style. But as you can see, it has both Jurassic Park and The Lost World. If you have not read these, well, first of all, I've got to show you. Look at this cover page. I just love it. I'm a pretty big Jurassic Park nerd. Look at this, so cool. If you have not read both of these, you need to. Even if you've seen the movies a million times and you love them, they're so good. I was just floored by how good they are. I've read them multiple times, but both of them are good. The Lost World is also really good, especially for a sequel. So this was $40 and this was $35. So buy one, get one half off. I did save quite a lot. So I was very excited. But the other reason I was very excited to go to a Barnes & Noble is that this year at Book Expo, James Daunt, the CEO of Barnes & Noble, spoke about Barnes & Noble and talked about the ways that Barnes & Noble has changed and is changing. It was a very interesting keynote speech. And I was super curious to see if Barnes & Noble has undergone any changes that I could identify, since I haven't been there for 15 years. I thought I would be the perfect person to kind of go in and compare and contrast. So I've always been a pretty big fan of Barnes & Noble. I love supporting my small local bookstores, but Barnes & Noble's always had kind of a little bit of a special place in my heart because I just love that feeling of being able to go in and sit with a book or multiple books and feel less pressure to move along, which I think was aided by the fact that there were usually coffee shops in the Barnes & Nobles that I went to. So I could meet my friends there and I could get a drink and stay. I have read whole books at Barnes & Noble, which I know is not ideal, but also I spent a lot more money. So I'm talking about as a young person who didn't have a lot of income to spend, even though there were some instances where maybe I spent too long or read too much of the book before I decided to buy it. I spent more money there than I would have otherwise. And I looked for it. It was a destination. It was a place for me as a young person to go and enjoy my time there. And that made me spend more money there. So, and then of course, as Barnes & Noble grew, there was a concern that Barnes & Noble was edging out smaller bookstores and that smaller bookstores weren't being appreciated for how wonderfully unique and helpful they could be. And so there's been a movement toward supporting independent bookstores, which is wonderful. And it's really intriguing to me that Barnes & Noble has taken note of this and decided, with James Daunt's help, to change the way that they do some things. He spent a lot of time talking about decentralizing the power at Barnes & Noble and moving it more from corporate, every store having the exact same items in the exact same places dictated by people from the top, to Barnes & Noble having more of an independent local feel, where the booksellers at a particular Barnes & Noble had more say over what was on their shelves. So that sounds great. And I really loved that he talked about how it can hurt booksellers and authors and the stores in general when everything is on a steep discount. Now, I did just talk about waiting until I could get these buy one, get one 50% off, but talking about everything in the store being 25% off, and you go and everything's marked down, so it almost feels meaningless that anything is marked down, right? They also were having trouble with buying huge amounts of stock in things that then did not sell, and then those things get sent back and authors don't see that money. So it was a very interesting speech, all that to say, and you can find lots of rundowns of that speech online. All that to say, I wanted to see if I, with my own 2 eyes, could see a difference. So did I? I would say I think that probably this Barnes & Noble that I went to had more small displays of topics that are either niche or trendy than it would have had otherwise. So I noticed in the middle of the store, there were lots and lots of curated tables that did not seem to be only, they didn't only have signage that was kind of obviously corporate down, this is Pride Month, here are all the Pride books. They also had things that were like, oh, what's an example? There was a Colorado section, so there were local books. There's always there's a Colorado shelf, but there was actually like a display too. Oh, there was one that was all Gothic themes, and of course that caught my eye because I love Gothic literature. There were several that were on themes like, I don't think this was one, but it would be on the theme of like Schools of Wizardry, but that wasn't what, it wasn't Schools of Wizardry, but I can't remember what it was. Oh, there was one that was books about books, but it was all fiction, bookish books like The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery and books like that that were all grouped together. That was really cool to see. And then it did have, yeah, just quite a few little small sections like that. It did still have a big section for staff picks with little index cards, which is always one of my favorite things about going into independent bookstores, to see what the staff enjoys and, read what they have to say about it. That often influences my decision to purchase. I can't remember if that was common before, but someone told me it was. So it may just be that I pay more attention to that than I used to. It just still felt like a Barnes & Noble, which I suppose is good. You do go, and I did go, because Barnes & Noble has a particular feel, and you do want people to know what they're getting into when they go into a bookstore, because then, if they like it, they'll come back, right? But the idea was that not every region, not every neighborhood, every community wants to read the same things as every other community. So if it's all top down, then it's tone deaf for a lot of people. And so I was hoping to see a little more evidence of that, of the local booksellers kind of taking initiative. James Daunt did say that the local bookstore sellers, even though they have more freedom now, are not used to that freedom. And so they may not be across the board turning their stores into the kind of independent feeling store that it could be. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how things go in the future. I'd love your take. So if you live near Barnes & Noble and you love Barnes & Noble or hate it, and you've seen an evolution or a progression, I'd love to get someone else's opinion, since I have been more or less out of the loop with shopping in Barnes & Noble in person for a long time, living in Juneau, where there's no Barnes & Noble. I do love my local bookstore and frequent them and like to order things through them. And like I said, I do order some things through Barnes & Noble on the internet. But yes, so now I have my beautiful Jurassic Park and my beautiful Dune, and just in time for the movie 2 to come out, so I can read the second half of this book again to be prepared. And yeah, I'm very excited to have been to some bookstores in person that were all lovely and all different from each other, and get to do some in-person shopping, which I try to do every single place that I go. Whether I need them or not, I don't need them, so that's a not, but I mean, need, I don't know what need means, but I also was gifted a few books while I was there. Oh, that's another one I bought, I forgot. Look at this one. Unsinkable, the Molly Brown story. I got this from the Unsinkable Molly Brown mansion, Molly Brown's mansion. So she was one of the survivors of the Titanic. She moved to Denver, and I went to her house. Mansion is maybe generous, and museum, and took a tour and bought this biography for my kids. So I guess that wasn't technically for me, but it was very interesting, and of course I bought that book too. But yeah, so if you're in Denver, tell me which bookstores are your favorite. Which ones did I miss? Have you been to Tattered Cover? Of course you have. Have you been to Firehouse Books? And I would love to hear everyone's take on Barnes & Noble. And I really, every time I see these two cute little ones, I want to read them right away. So I think I'm going on another trip this week, and I think these are just going to get stuck right now in my backpack so that I can make sure they come with me. Have a good one.